Good evening to all of you. So there was some technical problem with the Teams, this app. So we'll start with our today's aphorisms. Today we are going to discuss about the intermittent fevers. We have discussed last time about the intermittent diseases. We started with that part. We discussed about the alternating states, which are to be categorized as the intermittent. What kind of diseases or what kind of states are to be characterized as the intermittent. So before going into this state, because we will be talking about uh, how to treat them or how to uh, deal with such diseases or with patients who are suffering from such diseases. During these aphorisms, there will come a point that we have to treat it in a way, like I'm just giving this example ahead of starting this thing. I just want to clarify this thing before we go further, because many times we get confused that if we are dealing with the mental diseases or one-sided diseases or acute diseases or this intermittent fevers or some epidemic fevers, that we have to change our way of analyzing the case, or we have to change our prescriptions, or there are certain set of symptoms which are only required for the chronic diseases. There are certain set of remedies which are required for this what we say. uh, just give me a minute, please, just 1 minute. Okay, so we were talking that this might sometimes come as an idea that we might have to give some certain medicines, or we have to change our this way of prescription. The basic rules, they always remain the same. The basic principles, they remain the same. The basic way of case taking, it always remain the same. Yes, but according to the different cases, the preference of symptoms, or what kind of group of symptoms we have to give preference, that may change. For example, in the mental diseases, we did that we have to get acquainted or understand in a complete manner what kind of mental state the patient is in, and then we have to add to that the physical symptoms which have been going on. Okay, in some acute episodes, like even the acute mania state, Dr. Hahnemann has told us that okay, take the that state only. What is happening at that state, prescribe accordingly, and then move on to give an antisoric or a constitutional medicine. So the basic principle of prescription, or the basic principles, they remain the same. There are certain what we call as the tuning, like we tune into a certain radio frequency. So that kind of tuning, that needs to be adjusted according to different cases, according to different classification of the diseases. Okay, so during this journey of the Organon, in this practical part, that is what Dr. Hahnemann is getting us acquainted. If you can remember aphorism 3, where he says that we have to adjust according to each individual case. This is the adjusting, where we need to adjust our thinking pattern. Okay, the basic thinking, the basic thought process remains the same, but we have to adjust that. Okay, this is the that kind of case, this is a case of alternating diseases, now I have to think in that way. This is a case of intermittent fevers, now I have to think in that way. I have to remember what I should give importance in this case. I have to take the whole case, and then out of all the information, what I have to give importance, what my prescription should cover. In this case, what is to be seemed as important. So that is a very important thing to understand when we are prescribing. Okay. Every case which is coming episodically, like we discussed last time, it is not an acute case always. Okay. It has a chronic tendency to it. There is a sora which is underlying the whole state. So we have to understand that thing. So that was very clear in the last aphorisms. But in 235, now Dr. Hahnemann is going to say something again about certain cases where the intermittent fevers are like this. Okay. So that is the classification which we have to understand. And then we have to moderate ourselves. We have to adjust ourselves depending upon the case, depending upon the patient in front of us. So with that, we will start and we will talk about this thing while we are discussing the aphorisms. Okay. So in the last part, we have talked about where the fever is not coming. Now we are discussing those intermittent diseases where the fever is there. So with regard to the intermittent fevers that prevail sporadically or epidemically, not those endemically located in the marshy districts. So one part we have kept out, that where the fever is endemic. Nowadays, it is rarely seen in the urban localities or even in the countryside, because many measures have been taken to, to guide the people regarding the surroundings, regarding the locations. But still, it can happen in one or the other case. But we will talk it about in a later manner. Here we are in this aphorism, we are going to talk about the intermittent fevers which are sporadic or epidemic. Like if there is some epidemic intermittent fever, or sporadic, like sometimes in some season, some cases of dengue they start coming, or some kind of remittent fever they start pouring in. Then what we have to do, we often find every paroxysm likewise composed of two opposite alternating states. So what we call as the intermittent fevers, how we have to classify, where the paroxysms, the two opposite alternating states are coming, cold and heat. There is a state of chill, then there is a state of heat, or when there is a state of heat first, then chill. Okay, so two alternating opposite states are coming, more frequently still of three, and more frequently there is three states, one is of chill, cold, heat, and sweat. So those we will call as the intermittent fevers, where there are alternating states or there are different states to the whole episode. Therefore, the remedy selected for them from the general class of proved common not antisoric medicines must either, and the remedies of this sort are the surest, be able likewise to produce in the healthy body two or all three similar states. So we have to find a remedy which has this tendency to be similar to these states, either two states or the three states. Now, here it is written common, not antisoric. Okay, that you do not have to choose an antisoric remedy. Let's get clear about this. For example, there is a case coming to you, because regarding this thing, Dr. Hahnemann is going to talk in the next aphorism. He's going to clear it, but let me clear it a little before going, because sometimes the things they stuck to your mind. So, not antisoric, that does not mean that out of all the antisorics we cannot give any medicine. For example, a case is coming to you, the case clearly shows the pattern or the states, the chill state or the heat state or some kind of characteristic of those states, and it responds to sulfur. Okay, when you look at the whole case, you see that okay, sulfur is the remedy, but sulfur is an antisoric, approved antisoric remedy, very strong antisoric. Okay. So now, if you're okay, so 235, it was written that not to give antisoric. So instead of sulfur, what should I give? Should I give aconite? Should I what? we have to understand this thing that medicines, this antisoric part, what does Dr. Hahnemann means? Okay, there are some remedies which are proved antisorics, or there is this thing because they have a deeper action. Dr. Kent, he explains it in a more brilliant way, this antisoric part. He says that any medicine which has given symptoms or which has this tendency to produce symptoms on the skin, that can be considered as antisoric. Okay, so any remedy which has symptoms which can be produced on the skin, some kind of eruption or some kind of soric eruption, it can produce on the skin part, then we can consider that remedy as an antisoric, and that class has been increasing. Uh, and lot of medicines can be called as antisoric. There are very few medicines which we can call that okay, these are not antisoric, or these are uh, does not have that deeper action where the sora is situated. Again, we can talk about this thing in a different time or a lecture when we will discuss miasms. Antisoric is the way of prescribing a medicine. Same medicine you can prescribe in an antisoric way. The same medicine you can prescribe as an acute. Okay, like we normally talk. Okay, you can prescribe this medicine for a chronic disease, the antisoric one, or an acute also. The same medicine will work. The arsenic will work. The sulfur will work. Natrum will work in both the ways. So the main thing is that you do not have to approach as an antisoric in these kind of conditions. Whereas sporadic acute or an epidemic acute has come, take it as an acute, approach it as an acute disease. Okay, don't go into the past history. The recent causation is required. If you can get that, not, then we can go to the other part of the symptoms which we have. But you do not, right now you do not worry about giving an antisoric or giving the medicine in antisoric way or a constitutional way. So don't confuse it that Dr. Hahnemann has uh, told us not to give antisoric, but here it means the way, that don't approach it in that way. Okay, if a sulfur is coming, if that is a remedy, then give it. Okay, and Dr. Hahnemann is going to tell the same thing in the coming aphorism. I will again, we will talk about that again at that point, but still at this point I'm just trying to clear that and the remedies of this sort are the surest. If you will give it in this way, then they will be surest. If you are not taking an anti-soric like you are not taking the whole chronic history, asking what happened, in the, take it as an acute. This is the approach which we have to take, and the remedy which will come, that will be the surest way of curing this particular intermittent fever which is in front of us. So now coming to the next part. So the remedy which we are selected, therefore the remedy selected for them from the general class of proved medicines must either be able likewise to produce in healthy body two or all three similar alternating states. So the first thing which we have to keep in the mind is that the remedy which I am selecting, so whatever the states are there, either the two states are there or the three states are there, the medicine should be able to produce the same alternating states in a healthy body. Means it should have that power of curing those states, or else must correspond by similarity of symptoms in the most homeopathic manner possible to the strongest, best marked and most peculiar alternating, either to the cold stage or to the hot stage or to the sweating stage, with each with its accessory symptoms, according as the one or the other alternating state is the strongest and most peculiar. Okay, so either it should cover all the states or it should correspond in the similarity to the most marked and the strongest state of all three or two. If the sweating stage is more marked means it has more symptoms, it has more characteristics as compared to the cold or hot stage, then that should be the prominent part on which our medicine should be based. Our medicine should be similar to that. If heat stage has more prominent, for example, a patient is in a state of heat stage, at that time the fever has started, the body has started becoming warm, and the patient starts going into delirium. He has become loquacious, he has become cheerful, he is so feeling energetic at that time. So that becomes a very marked part of that heat stage with its accessory symptoms, all the accessory symptoms which are there. Okay. So if there is some state which is marked, which is strongest as compared to the other two, that the other two are not giving such strong symptoms. Why he's making this thing clear? Because sometimes what happens is you have three stages of fever. There is a chill, there is heat, and then sweating. Sometimes there are some one or two peculiar characteristics of chill stage. Then there are some characteristics of the sweating stage, and then there are some characteristics of the heat stage. When you see, look at the chill stage, you think of some remedies coming in the repertorization, which is not similar to the heat stage. The characteristics of heat stage are not being, marked by this thing. But then you look at the sweating stage, then a third remedy is, which is coming up. So you get confused which to give. We get confused. Okay, whether I should give this because, this medicine covers the sweating stage, but it does not cover the other two states. So to clear out that thing, you have to first pick in such a, if a remedy matches all the three states, there is nothing like that. That is the best remedy. But if we come into the state that all the three, characteristics, the three characteristics of all the three stages, sorry, characteristics of all the three stages, they are pointing to different remedies. So first we have to pick up a stage. We have to pick up the state which is more marked, which is more strongest, either by frequency, either by the strength. For example, the chill stage is very small, but the fever stage is very long and very marked and very intensified. So we will take it as that, okay, the whole disease is basically showing itself in this stage. Or the chill stage is very marked. It is very long, very strong as compared to the heat or the sweat. So we have to see the intensity. We have to see how long is the duration. We have to see which state more characteristic symptoms. According to that, we will pick one state in such cases, and then we will start finding the remedy for that. Okay. So these are the two ways. First of all, one, all the a remedy which matches all the three states, nothing like it. But when a medicine is not matching, or there is some state which is more stronger, more marked, more peculiar, then we will pick first that stage or that state, and then we prescribe our medicine according to that state. Now comes the more important part or more prioritized part, but the symptoms of patient's health during the intervals when he is free from fever must be the chief guide to the most appropriate homeopathic remedy. Okay. Again, but the symptoms of the patient's health during the intervals, during the state of apyrexia, when the fever or any of those three states are not there. At that time, whatever the symptoms are of the patient's health, they are the chief guide. They supersede all the other characteristics. If there is some characteristic in that state, for example, in staph aureus, when they are in a state of apyrexia, they start getting very ravenous hunger, very ravenous hunger. They will keep eating, keep eating, keep eating, keep eating. So that stage or that kind of symptom becomes very important. The symptom which is coming when the patient is free from all the three states. Okay. So they will become the chief guide to the most appropriate homeopathic remedy. Now, between you have thought about a remedy for those states, and then there is a remedy for this state which is free from the fever. This will be given more importance, which is more similar to the patient's symptom. They have to be characteristic symptom, not some weakness or some head heaviness, not those kind of symptoms. But if there is some characteristic symptom, like I told you that, suddenly he will go into a state of ravenous hunger, or when, for example, if there is no fever, the diarrhea sets in, and there is some characteristic of diarrhea, then that part will become a more important, this thing, guide for the homeopathic remedy which we have to prescribe. So first of all, the more topmost priority is to the symptoms which are in the stage of apyrexia. That is the topmost priority. Then the symptoms of the states. Okay. First, if all the three or two states are covered, very good, we can give that remedy. If we are not able to decide upon a remedy because the remedy of every state seems to be different, then we have to pick the strongest, best marked and peculiar state, okay, and then prescribe according to that stage. Because many times there are not much symptoms in the apyrexia state, in the interval state, there are not much symptoms. Okay, so then we go back to the, this, that symptoms of the state, whether the chill or the heat or all the three or two, we have to decide a remedy accordingly. But if you have those kind of characteristic symptoms in the state, in that interval time when the fever is not there, when all of the three states they are gone and the patient is in a healthy state, okay, then those symptoms, when he's free from the fever, when he's free from this intermittency, those symptoms need to be the chief guide according to their characterizations, according to their characteristics, according to the modalities, whatever they have at that time. So, okay, so in the intermittent fevers, we have to understand that we have to prescribe for this state acutely. We have to prescribe, don't go into the uh, analysis like we do in a chronic case or in a chronic disease. Don't go like that. It is an acute stage, we have to take it acutely. And then we have to, when I'm saying acute, don't misrepresent it with the acute miasm. Acute miasm is a different thing. When I'm talking acute, means it has come, like we have discussed, sporadically or an individual acute disease. I am taking the characterization of that acute which Dr. Hahnemann has given. We have already discussed in, I think, in Aphorism 72 or 73. I cannot remember clearly, maybe, but around that we have already discussed this classification, which we are to be called as the acute and which we have to call as the chronic. Okay, so I am taking that classification, that individual sporadic epidemic diseases, which we call as acute diseases. So in those acutes, we have to prescribe on the basis of acute, like regarding this stage, this episode, which is in front of me. So first footnote to aphorism 235. The pathology hitherto in vogue, which is still in the stage of irrational infancy. So here Dr. Hahnemann is talking about the intermittent fever. Basically, the classification which the pathological books, they have given to the intermittent fever. They call it ague. So he's talking about that recognizes but one single intermittent fever. He's saying that pathology recognizes that only one kind of intermittent fever is there, because anything which has cold, chill, and sweat, they call it as intermittent fever. The pathology describes it as intermittent fever, which it likewise termed ague, and it is termed as ague, AGUE, and admits of no varieties but such as are constituted by the different intervals at which the paroxysms reoccur. So he's saying that there is no varieties which are given in the books of pathology. Only diversities or only divisions or only terminations, terminology which is given is basically based upon the paroxysm, that how frequently they are reoccurring, whether it is a quotidian, tertian, or a quatern, etc. But there are much more important differences among them than what are marked by the period of their recurrences. So he's saying, but there are so many diversified intermittent fevers. Now, some, like for example, malaria is also an intermittent fever. Dengue is also an intermittent fever. But there is not a single type of dengue. Every patient has a different symptoms. So he's talking about this thing, that when you classify a very larger thing into a very simpler form, into a very small form, then there is an inability to think beyond that. Okay, so this is basically why Dr. Henneman was very cautious about diagnosis. Diagnosis means giving a name to a disease. That just by the common symptoms of the disease, that there is fever, there is chill, and there is sweat, we just call it an intermittent fever. That is not a way how they should be, because the line of treatment then goes accordingly. Whatever the name of a disease is given, the line of treatment is going according to that. So he's saying that, but they are all different. There are innumerable varieties of these fevers innumerable. We cannot number them. There are so many varieties of these fevers, some of which cannot even be denominated egg. And many of them we cannot denominate egg, because in egg there is a sequence that first the chill will come, then the heat stage will come, and then the sweat will come. But there are so many intermittent fevers that don't go like this. Some, the heat may come first and the chill comes in the last, or it may start with the sweat also and then end in a heat. So he's saying that there are so many varieties which cannot even be denominated egg, as their fits consist solely of heat. Because sometimes there is only one state which is available. Their episode, fits mean their episode, the paroxysm which comes, it consists solely of heat. Others again are characterized by cold alone. Then there is only chill in some, with or without subsequent perspiration. There might be some perspiration or there might not be. Yet others which exhibit general coldness of the surface with a sensation of heat on the patient's part, on which the body feels externally hot. The patient might feel coldness, but when you touch the patient, he is hot. The patient feels cold, or the patient's body is hot and he is feeling cold, or the patient's body is cold but internally there is a sensation of heat. This also can happen. Others again, in which one paroxysm consists entirely of a rigor or simple chilliness, followed by an interval of health. So there can be a paroxysm where only the chill comes and then the apyrexia starts. There's an interval of health. Whilst the next, okay, so the next paroxysm consists heat alone, and the next is in the paroxysm in the same patient, there can be only heat, followed or not by perspiration. It may be followed by perspiration, it may not be followed. So he's telling there can be so many different varieties of intermittent fevers, and he's just telling us about that. See in a big way, see in a wide way, that how many differences are there, and we are just naming it with simple small intermittent fever. Others again, in which the heat comes first and the cold stage not till that is gone. So there is when the heat comes and then the cold stage is not yet gone, but the heat starts. And others again, wherein after a cold or hot stage, apyrexia ensues, and then perspiration comes on like a second fit, often many hours subsequently. And there may be some kind of a fever where a cold or a heat stage has come, and then there is a state of apyrexia. Patient is healthy, and then after a few hours, the perspiration starts. Others again, in which no perspiration at all comes on, and yet others in which the whole attack consists of perspiration alone without any cold or hot stage, or in which the perspiration is only present during the heat. So now there can be some paroxysms or some kind of intermittent fevers in a patient which may show that there is no perspiration, or some paroxysm will be like that it has only perspiration, or without any chill, without any heat stage. And there are numerable other differences, especially in regard to the accessory symptoms. So all the other accessory symptoms such as headache of a peculiar kind, bad taste in the mouth, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, want of or excessive thirst, the patient may be thirsty or thirstless, peculiar pains in the body or limbs, disturbed sleep, delirium, alterations of temper, spasms, etc., before, during, or after the cold stage, before, during, or after the hot stage, before, during, or after the sweating stage, and countless other varieties. So he's saying that there are so many accessory symptoms in the patients which are different regarding the thirst, regarding the uh, appetite, regarding some kind of pain in the body, some kind of delirium, sleep, and different stages. So he's saying that there are innumerable variety, countless varieties. We cannot count, and we just give it one name and then treat them accordingly. All these are manifestly intermittent fevers of very different kinds. They are all intermittent fevers, each of which, as might naturally be supposed, requires a special homeopathic treatment. And they all require a special different treatment. Homeopathic means similar to the symptoms. Homeopathic. It has to be homeo, and then only that kind of treatment is what is needed to cure them. It must be confessed that they can almost all be suppressed. Now he's saying that he it should be confessed, it should be understand that all these fevers they can be suppressed. The word used is suppressed. It is not cured, suppressed, as is often done by enormous doses of bark, cinchona bark, and its pharmaceutical preparations, the sulfate of quinine. So the quinine, we have discussed this earlier also when we were talking about this thing, that quinine is a very strong medicine which has been used and is being used even now. So we are not yet free of that thing, but some preparations have changed, but still quinine is being used. So if given in this way, that every intermittent fever is given quinine, every intermittent fever is given, even if I talk homeopathically, if every intermittent fever is being given China, then we can also suppress that patient. That fever can be suppressed when given in larger doses. I'm not saying that don't give China. If it is indicated, we have to give China, but it should be indicated in a homeopathic way. Then it can cure. If we are giving China in large doses, repeating oftenly, then it will suppress the fever. That is to say, their periodical reoccurrence, their typus may be extinguished by it, although often only after increased and frequently repeated doses. So, this is the first thing which can separate a right remedy, right medicine, or a wrong medicine. That a wrong medicine will never need, sorry, a right medicine will never need to be frequently repeated, or its doses they never need to be increased. If a medicine is repeated frequently, in such cases, there are some cases where you need it, the frequent repetition. I'm not talking about that. But in these cases, intermittent fevers or some acute episodes, you don't need to repeat that dose again and again. And if you have to increase the dose also of the medicine with that, then we are prescribing the same way the allopathic medicines are prescribed, because there is a need to increase the medicinal substance, because it is a substance, it is a material dose, so it needs to be increased and it needs to be frequently repeated. But the patients who suffered from intermittent fevers for which cinchona bark is not suitable, now there are some patients who are suffering from intermittent fevers, and the cinchona bark is not suitable to them, as is the case with all those epidemic where the epidemic intermittent fevers are there that traverse whole countries and even mountainous districts, are not restored to health by the extinction of the typhus. So cinchona bark will help in the extinction of the typhus. Typhus means that reoccurrence, that periodical reoccurrence that will break down. Like we have discussed earlier in the last time also, that it is a characteristic of China that it will break the periodical recurrence. So even if you have given a right remedy, the patient is getting better, 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 but the periodical reoccurrence is not going away. So there also Dr. Hahnemann said that think about a dose of China, yeah, in a diluted manner, in a tincturized way. Okay. So because the China has this characteristic of breaking the typus. So if cinchona bark is being given and it breaks the typus, it does not mean that the patient will be restored to the health. On the contrary, they now remain ill in another manner. The whole disease is suppressed. Now they are ill in another manner, and worse, often much worse than before. You will find the patients who will come to you who have been taken some medicines for the typhoid, for the malaria, for dengue, especially this quinine part. You will see that okay, there that problem has gone away, but after that, many other symptoms, especially of weakness, or some kind of pains in the body, which are coming, okay, or some kind of, they will never say that they are healthy, and they will always point to that time after chikungunya, after typhoid, after dengue, doctor, I have not recovered. Because they feel that something has been taken away from their health permanently. So this they will always point to the doctor. The doctor, after that episode, after that dengue, after that intermittent fever, I have never recovered, because there's something like this has happened, often much worse than before. They are affected by a peculiar chronic bark dyscrasias. This is the medicinal disease which they have been, that it has taken the place of that intermittent fever. It was strong. It replaced. It was similar, strong, so it replaced the old disease. Aphorism 37, 38, 40, which we have done regarding how the diseases they basically displace each other and can scarcely be restored to health even by a prolonged treatment by the true street system of the medicine. Okay, even with the sometimes with the homeopathic, because aphorism 76, sorry, 70, yes, 76, it tells us that that this kind of damage has to be treated by the vital force itself, and it takes a long, long, long time to do it. Re- that we have removed the miasm, or we have cured the miasm, the cured the sora, which has been the fundamental cause for the chronic disease. Once we have given the medicine, still complete restoration to the health, it takes a long time, prolonged treatment, and yet that is what is called curing forsooth. And forsooth means indeed, indeed in a sarcastic way, in a more a way which shows a little mocking, that, and then they call this curing, like the intermittent fever has been cured. So second footnote to aphorism 235, here Dr. Hahnemann basically tells about Dr. Boeing Hassan's, because he made this repertory, he made a special his work regarding this thing for the fevers. So Dr. Von Boeing Hassan, who has rendered more services to our beneficent system of medicine than any other of my disciples, has been elucidated this subject, which demands so much care and has facilitated the choice of the efficient remedy for the various epidemics of fever. In this work entitled Versu Keiner, Homeopathician, Therapy der Wechselfieber 1883, Munster Bay, Regensburg. So this was the work, or this was a kind of small repertory which Dr. Boingerson at that time had made for the epidemics of fever. After that, many doctors have worked on this thing. Many other books have been and many vast work has been done on this thing. And so you can, I think, Dr. Allen has also done a very great work on this thing. So if you want to go to that particular books, you can go, you can read them. There are different symptoms given in these books of chill, of the heat, of sweat stage, and then also of the apyrexia stage when the fever is not there. Okay, so they have been given beautifully. You can go, you can read. Yes, I will not say that we can remember everything, but yes, at least we can see what kind of symptoms they come in these stages. We can become acquainted with that thing, that what kind of symptoms we can see in these states. Some might stick to you, that is good, but at least we will go when we go through the symptoms, because one patient is not going to show you all the symptoms, or 10 patients are not going to all show you all the symptoms. Like Dr. Hahnemann has already told us many times that they are innumerable. you, you even in your whole life you cannot see all of the symptoms, but yes, by reading the this materia medica, we keep getting acquainted. We keep getting acquainted with the wordings the patient has used. Like in Kali Karp, the patient uses this word that it feels that there are someone has placed coal, burning coal on my rectum. The hemorrhoids, they feel like that. So we can sit for a moment, we can meditate on that words, that okay, it feels like so intensified burning, that someone has put a coal so intensified. So that is how the patient is going to tell us, that is how his pain will be, his expressions will be. the way of explaining will be when he comes to me. Because when patient is coming to me, he's not going to use the exact same words, but yes, he will show the same kind of intensity and expressions which those patients might have shown. So this is how we become acquainted with the symptoms. Again, one points how to read materia medica. We have to get acquainted. Okay, these kind of symptoms are shown. And there are these kind of symptoms the patient might feel while burning. While urinating, patient feels that something very big has escaped, and now he feels relaxed. Yeah. These kind of symptoms are there. The patients might, that there is an amelioration after urination, amelioration to that heaviness which was felt in the uh, abdominal area, or in the lower abdominal area, or in the pelvic area. So when we go through those kind of symptoms, we become acquainted. So similarly in fevers, similarly with the cough, you can decide that okay, today I am going to read about the cough. What kind of cough are there? We can go into that thing, understand that thing. What is a hacking cough? What is a cough which can be this uh, contracts or suffocates, contracts the esophagus, or a spasmodic cough, or a hacking cough, or a dry cough. What kind of ameliorations and aggravations are there? Sometimes you are surprised, oh, this kind of thing might aggravate or ameliorate the cough. Like there is one of the remedies, I am not trying to, that if they hold their throat uh, more strongly, then the cough becomes better. I'm not able to remember the remedy right now, but there is this kind of symptom. So if you have read, and when you are reading the symptom, it surprises you. Oh, what kind of symptom is this? Because if something strange is coming, the mind becomes curious. That is a food for the mind. That is a food for the brain. The brain becomes curious about new things, something which is not ordinary. Because if that kind of symptom comes in front of you someday, the brain will automatically catch. You don't have to do anything, because you have already been surprised, and you will be again surprised to see that thing. Okay, so don't uh, learn or read materia medica to memorize it. There is no need for that thing, and it is not meant to be like that. It should be anything which we read, or not only materia medica. I have told this thing earlier also, that anything we read, what is the purpose of a book, or what is the purpose of reading? That it should incite our ideas, our thought process. We are not going to remember, like when we were small, we used to hear stories. Our grandparents or parents that used to tell us stories. What was the purpose of those stories? They didn't wanted us to have that kind of like, why children like stories? Because they wonder. That is what the brain needs, that they wonder at the choice of the words, they wonder at the twists, they wonder what is going to happen next. That wondering is basically uh, helps the brain to retain the information to learn. Okay? So similarly are the books. They are there to provoke the thought processes. So whatever comes in the thought process, that will be retained. So sometimes it might feel like, for example, if you now I'm not saying that sometimes you, a book, for example, some materia medica, you start reading Netramure from Dr. Kent's Materia Medica. First, you will look at the pages. How many pages are there? Sulfur, oh my God, 30 pages, 35 pages. So, because we are told that everything should be perfect. We try to do thing, everything should be perfect. For example, reading means I should memorize perfectly. There is no definition of perfection. There is no definition of perfection. There is nothing in the world which is perfect. Even the earth is not round. Although we see that round earth, but actual shape of earth is not round. It is way away from being round. It is just shown or seen like that, that it is a round or oval shaped. It is not. If you go on the internet and you type in the actual shape of the earth, you will be, it will be a wonderful thing to see if you. So nothing is perfect. Perfection is just an illusion. Okay, you just we go with this idea. We should go with this idea that there's a beauty in imperfection. If I'm imperfect, if someone is imperfect, that is the beauty of it. If I'm reading something, if I have read 10 lines, I cannot even remember one line after reading. It's okay. No worries. I don't have to read it again. I will just take the gist of it. I will just take the essence of it. What the writer wants to say. That is more important than anything. Because once I get the essence, then I can create that in me. I can recreate whenever I want it. I just need the essence of that thing. Okay. For example, if someone has told you story, you can tell the story again and again and again. You can create, you can add something to it, you can subtract something from it if you which you don't like, but you can recreate it, you can create it in your mind, you can tell it again and again. Because why you can tell? Because that story felt amazing in yourself. You like that thing. So the main thing is liking the idea, liking the wondering in what or how it will be presented in front of me, what I will do if it comes to me. And then what will happen? If I give such a remedy, such a patient comes and I give such a remedy. Yesterday, I had a case of cancer, female suffering from cancer. Already, she was having this soft tissue sarcoma. So there was a medicine which came. It was more indicated, very hard, very big. This thing, the lymph nodes, which were very, very big and very hard. So we gave certain medicine to her. Now, I was giving that medicine when I was writing that medicine. So I was wondering what is going to happen. That wondering is what makes us work. That what will happen now, not the fear, but the wondering. Okay? Fear takes us away from something which is beautiful. So that wondering is because I have already read about that medicine sometime before. You can say 6, 7 months back. I have read extensively about that medicine, and then that patient came, and that there was this characteristic of that remedy, and the patient or the attendants, what they were saying, they all then, and after prescribing, you wonder that how like a small child, there is this excitement that now what will happen. Let's see. So this is what makes the materia medica, how you can remember, or how we have to, although I'm going away from the subject, but somehow because the materia medica became a topic in this footnote, materia medica can only be remembered or only be understood by this kind of amazement or this kind of wonder when you are practicing it. All this thing, all the books, Organon, Materia Medica, the chronic disease, all the philosophy which is written, the main purpose is for us to practice it. Okay, for example, there's a game of football. Okay, I tell you the rules or how to dribble or how to do this, but that all makes sense. You have read about everything, you have seen the videos, how the players play, makes more meaning when we go out and play. You may not fail, that I will not use the word failure, but yes, some mistakes may be done, but those are the learning. That is what is there to do. We can only learn from mistakes. We cannot do learn from anything which we have done perfect, because if we have done something good, then that we know, there is nothing to know more about it. But if we have done some mistakes, even if we have not scored goals or we got we did some thing which was not required at that particular time, it's okay. That is how we learn. That is a part of the game. The mistakes are part of the game. So we go back, we study again, we read again, we see ourselves, we work on ourselves, and we go out again. That is how the life is. Every aspect of the life, it is like this. That is the actual purpose of life, to keep improving. So again, coming back to this topic, so this is how we have to go. That at the end, the mind is that I am reading about this. Why? Because there is one mission of a physician, the first aphorism, to cure the sick. I am going out, I'm going to see the patient, I'm going to work on them, I'm going to work on my. The more I see patient, the more I understand sickness, the more I understand health, the more I understand homeopathy. That is how it can be done. So there is, if we think, okay, first I have to read. Many students come to the clinic that I am not ready to practice. The day you understood about homeopathy, the day you read that word homeopathy somewhere, you were ready to practice on that day. There is no decided time to practice. You cannot decide on it. You have to start it. Okay. We have to, there is this word, I think, in a Japanese word, wabi sabi, means act before you become perfect. You have to act. Don't wait for the perfection. You have to act now. Okay. The more you will act, the more you will see, the more mistakes you will wish that you make mistakes, because then you can learn more quickly. The people who are afraid of making mistakes, there is afraid of, you can call it mistake, you can call it failure. If we are afraid of that, we cannot go past ourselves, we cannot do. I have discussed this thing before also, that we hear success stories, but we no one tells us that how many times that person has actually failed before being successful, because it is part of the same process. So you have to act before thinking. Go out, see the patients, go to the clinic, see the patient, go to the hospital, see the patients, because the patients are your guide to homeopathy. That's how we learn homeopathy. That is how we learn materia medica. That is how we learn organon, chronic disease, everything. So we'll go to the next part, next aphorism, 236. So after understanding what is intermittent diseases and how we have to tune into our approach, how what we have to see, now we have to understand when we have to prescribe the medicine. After we have chosen a right remedy, the most appropriate and efficacious time for administering the medicine in these cases is immediately or very soon after the termination of the paroxysm. So the most appropriate or efficacious time is when the paroxysm has already terminated or is near termination. There was a chill stage, a heat stage, a sweat stage, and now the sweat stage has started decreasing either at that time or it has completely stopped. The sweating has completely stopped. Now is the time to give your remedy which you have selected. As soon as the patient has in some degree recovered from its effects. So as soon as the patient has recovered from that effect of the whole paroxysm, that is the right and the most appropriate time to give the remedy which you have selected. It has then time to affect all the changes in the organism requisite for the restoration of health. Then it will get the appropriate time, right time to affect the change, to cure, to bring the healthy, sorry, to remove the symptoms and restoration of health can be done without any problems, without any great disturbance or violent commotions, whereas the action of a medicine, be it ever so specifically appropriate, if given immediately before the paroxysm, coincides with the natural recurrence of disease and causes such a reaction in the organism, such a violent contention, that an attack of that nature produces at the very least a great loss of strength if it do not endanger life. So Dr. Henneman is saying, if your medicine is right, for example, you have chosen a right remedy, but you give it in the start of the paroxysm, when the paroxysm is just starting, then because the medicine has to produce the similar disease. So there is the intensity of the disease, natural disease, then the intensity of the medicinal disease. Because they are similar, so they might produce such a great intensified violent attack that it might even lead to the endanger of life, or even if it does not lead to that, there will be a great loss of strength. The patient will be very weak at the end of that paroxysm. It can aggravate very strongly, if we say. if we have to say. So in such cases, we have to understand what should be the right time, because there is a paroxysm coming and your medicine is similar to the paroxysm. Medicine going to produce the same kind of symptoms. Okay, it has a tendency to create produce certain same kind of symptoms. So it will be the magnitude of the attack will be multiplied. But if the medicine be given immediately after the termination of the fit, that is to say, at the period when the apoplectic interval has commenced and a long time before there are any preparations for the next paroxysm, when the vital force of the organism is in the best possible condition to allow itself to be quietly altered by the remedy and thus restored to the healthy state. But if we have given the same medicine, similar medicine, the remedy which we have chosen at the end of the termination of the episode of the paroxysm of the fit, in that apyretic interval, in the interval when the fever or the paroxysm is not there, then it can give enough time to the body, to the vital force, to cure the patient of that problem without any kind of aggravations, and the patient can be restored to the healthy state very easily. So footnote to aphorism 236, this is observed in the fatal cases. So this part, it is basically this do not endanger life, that it may endanger life mean. So here the aphorism is about this part. Sorry, aphorism is about this part, that this is observed in fatal cases by no means rare, in which a moderate dose, some cases which are fatal cases where the intermittent fevers are of that kind that the patient is going towards certain death, in which a moderate dose of opium given during the cold stage quickly deprive the patients of health. So just the chill was starting, opium was the right remedy for that stage, and it was given at that time, and the patient, the whole incidence was fatal for the patient and he was deprived of the life. So this has been seen. So that is why Dr. Hahnemann has given uh, a caution, a note of caution to us, that think about in such cases, especially when the patient is in a very sensitive stage, think about when to give the medicine. But if the stage of apyrexia be very short, now there might be some intermittent fevers where the state of health or the apyrexia is very small, very short, few minutes, as happens in some very bad fevers, or if it be disturbed by some of the after sufferings of the previous paroxysm, the dose of homeopathic medicine should be administered when the perspiration begins to abate. So when the last stage, in this case perspiration, it starts decreasing, the point at which it starts decreasing, that is where the medicine should be given, only if the stage of apyrexia is very small, preferably in the stage of apyrexia. But in such cases where the apyrexia stage is very small, the medicine should be given when the perspiration or any whichever is the last state, it has started decreasing, or the other subsequent phenomena of the expiring paroxysm begins to diminish. Okay, so either the perspiration, because most commonly it is the perspiration which is the last stage, but in some cases where the perspiration is absent, only heat is the last state, or chill is the last state, or even the perspiration is there but some other state is there which basically ends the paroxysm. So whenever it starts decreasing, okay, for example, perspiration is coming, it is increasing, the perspiration is coming, then it is steady, the patient is perspiring, then it starts decreasing. So when it starts decreasing, we have to give the medicine at that time, only in the cases where the stage of apyrexia is very short. So it is only when the suitable medicine has with a single dose destroyed several fits and manifest health has ensued, but after some time indications of a new paroxysm appear. Yes, okay, sorry. So here Dr. Hahnemann is basically talking about that it is only when the suitable medicine has with a single dose destroyed several fits and manifest health has ensued, but after some time indications of a new paroxysm appear, only then can and must the same medicine be given. So Dr. Hahnemann, first of all, he's giving importance to this part, that these kind of fevers most of the time they go with a single dose. When the single dose has destroyed several fits and manifest health has ensued. Okay, there were several fits which were coming. There were several paroxysms which used to come, but a single dose of a suitable medicine, it made sure that the health is restored. So in such a case, but after some time, if after some time, for example, few days, after a month, after 15 days, after some time, indications of a new paroxysm appear. Okay, if some new paroxysm comes after some time, only then can and must the same medicine be given again. Okay, only then the dose of the medicine has to be given again. So Dr. Hahnemann is saying that we will not need much, and it is a practically seen thing that if your medicine is right, you have understood the whole phenomena of this intermittent fever, you don't need more than a single dose, and it cures very fast. It gets cured very fast. So in such cases, if a new paroxysm comes again, provided always the totality of symptom is still the same. This is the second condition. The totality should be same. If the paroxysm has a new kind of symptoms or a new kind of characteristics, then don't repeat that remedy. Then you have to find a new remedy. Okay. So if a new paroxysm comes but the symptoms are same, then only we have to repeat this dose. Dr. Hahnemann in the coming aphorisms also he will make it clear, but repetition of dose is a thing which should not be taken lightly. It is a very important concept in homeopathy that the medicinal dose should be repeated with caution, and all the good homeopaths, they have given this caution again and again. Dr. Kent even write that when you feel that you need to repeat the medicine, wait for few days. When you feel, even if the thought comes to you that I need to repeat, wait for a few days, see how it goes. Take a break, take some time, go to the basics of follow up, how my follow up is going, what is required. If you cannot tick all the possibilities which require the repetition of dose, don't repeat it. Wait. When you see that amelioration is still going on, okay, certain symptoms have increased, but still some symptoms are getting improved, or the improvement is coming but at a very slow pace, wait. I have said that we cannot increase the speed of improvement by repeating the dose or giving a high potency. No, it has to come from within. It is a secondary action of vital force. The vital force has to do, you have no control over vital force, don't have any control over speed. What is in our control is our patience, and that is only thing which we have to control. The impulses should be in our control. The impulse to repeat, that should be in the control of the physician. If you want to be afraid of a result which will come after repeating, when the repetition is not required, this is the thing which the physician should be afraid of. Again I'm saying, we should be afraid of the result which will come after unnecessary repetition of the dose. That is what we should be afraid of. Okay. This recurrence of the same fever after an interval of health is, however, only possible when the noxious influence at first excited. So, the only possibility of this kind of recurrence after giving a suitable medicine and the paroxysm is gone completely and the health has come back, the patient is completely recovered. So, the recurrence of same fever, the only possibility is when the noxious influence that first excited the intermittent fever still continues to act upon the convalescent. That the noxious, now we have to understand this part. The medicine was suitable because it destroyed the whole disease, it destroyed the paroxysms, and the health was manifested. Patient was completely healthy in the whole term of health. The way health is described, he was completely that thing. It is not that, yes, certain signs of weakness were there, or cough was still, sorry, some symptoms regarding the paroxysm was still there, but very minute. No, not that. That means the medicine might have not been suitable, because a suitable medicine, a right medicine in this particular part, it will completely remove the disease in all its extensions. So manifesting health means that the disease is completely gone. So in those cases, we are talking that if a new paroxysm comes, then the only possibility is that whatever caused the paroxysm to come in the first time, that is still acting on the patient. As happens in marshy districts, nowadays we don't have much of this kind because the urbanization has come, and with our intellect we have eroded jungles, we have eroded, the human being, they have eroded trees, and the marshes, they have been filled with uh, uh, anything which we can. So we don't go, and we don't have much of this thing. But yes, in some cases it might come, or there might be some other causation which is keeping up the disease, or which has helped in the reoccurrence of that paroxysm. So we have to take that thing in account also. So like it happens in the marshy district, in which case a permanent cure is often only possible by removal of this exciting cause, as for instance a residence in a mountainous area if the case was one of the marsh intermittent fever. So in that cases, that may become an obstacle to the cure. So in those cases we have to tell the patient to move to some other part, because this part, or there is a causation where he's living, that is not suitable for him to get healthy. So it becomes an obstacle of disease, and we have to tell the patient that you must remove this obstacle. As almost every medicine causes in its pure action a special peculiar fever and even a kind of intermittent fever with its alternating states differing from all other fevers that are caused by other medicines. So this is the part where which I was talking about when we were talking about antisorics, or like where Dr. Hanneman has given that don't give any antisoric. So Dr. Hanneman is saying as almost every medicine causes in its pure action a special peculiar fever. Every medicine in its pure action has a special peculiar fever. So either it is a polycrest remedy, a supposed antisoric or antipsychotic or antisyphilitic, they have a special peculiar fever of their kind in their action. So any medicine basically can act in the state of these intermittent fevers, even a kind of intermittent fever with its alternating states. So they have peculiar fevers, they have peculiar kind of intermittent fevers. All the medicines they have, which are differing from the fevers which the other medicines cause. Okay? They are different in their own style. Homeopathic remedies may be found in the extensive domain of medicines for all the numerous varieties of natural intermittent fevers. So, a homeopathic remedy, a remedy which is similar to the state of that fever which is presented in front of us in the patient. A homeopathic remedy, a similar remedy to that state, can be found in this extensive domain of the medicines. And for a great many of such fevers, even in the moderate collection of medicines already proved on the healthy individual. So, because till that time, the proving of certain medicines were done, but they were still few, because now we have an extensive collection of medicine and extensive collection of materia medica, extensive collection of materia medica regarding the fevers also. So we can see how each medicine, every medicine has a different kind of fever which they produce and which they have the power to cure. Okay. So coming to that point also, that every medicine has this thing, that they have a kind of intermittent fever in their action, and every medicine at that particular time in that acute stage can act on that patient. So again, going to that part, that it is written not antisorics, means don't use an antisoric approach, not the medicine but the antisoric approach. But is the remedy found to be homeopathic specific for a prevalent epidemic? Okay, so from here the epidemics disease will start. We will discuss it next time, because then the epidemic is a completely different. So till this is all about the intermittent fevers. Okay, so we started with intermittent diseases. We talked about alternating states, how we have to see them, how we have to approach them. Today we have done how we have to approach the intermittent fevers. So I hope there was clarity regarding the distinction, regarding how we have to approach in different cases, and also regarding how we have to approach our study of materia medica, of homeopathy, because that is very important. I always say this thing again and again to my students, to the doctors whom I talk with, that it is very important. Anything, there has to be clarity. Let me talk about one thing. Clarity about what? Clarity about what I'm doing. We need to be very clear about what we are doing. We have to sit, we have to think, we have to think why. How will come? We have to think about why. Why I am doing this. We have to be very clear. Whatever comes to you, it might be something which may not be up to the moral standards. Okay. Because sometimes, some things are like, okay, I want it for money. I want to do it for money. I want to do it for social status. I want to do it for that people appreciate me, they thank me. Whatever be, it is just a talk with yourself. It is just what you are, when you are alone, it is the best time that you are talking to yourself. Because that talking to yourself can give you clarity. And clarity is very important. Whatever I'm doing, okay, even if does not uh, is not up to the moral standards, it is okay. It is for you. It is not that someone is going to give a report card. So be honest with that, that what I'm approaching, don't try to change it. Even if it is for money, I'm doing it for money. You can do it for money and use that money in a good way, for a good purpose, for the help of other people. You can do that thing. If you're doing it for service, very good. Do it for service. If you are doing it for, um, you know, uh, for appreciation, do it for that. It's okay to do for that. So you don't need to have a singular particular meaning for everything. You will reach there, but right now we have to be honest with our intentions. Why I'm doing this. Okay? Because once we are clear about our intentions, only then we can move forward. We have to be very clear. It should be a very clear approach. I am reading materia medica for this thing. I am doing homeopathy or my practice for this thing. I Results might come, you might get what you want, you might not get what you want. That is a different part. What you are going to get is not in our hands, what we are going to get. But at least I should be clear that yes, I'm doing this for this. That's it. Okay, no more, no less. Because when the mind becomes clear, you can think in a more efficient way. Clustered mind cannot learn anything. A mind which is clustered with thoughts, which is clustered with guilt, which is clustered with different emotions, it cannot think. So the best way to do is that clarify yourself that why I am doing this, and just accept it and move that yes, this is for what I am doing. This clarity or this need might change with time. That only time will tell. Okay. You don't need to make a big issue out of it. It is only with yourself. You don't need to tell anyone. It is just with yourself, but you with yourself should be very clear. That is the first thing, which will bring you more closer to the learning part. The more quickly you become clearer with yourself, you can easily show your intention with that clarity to your mind, to your work, that this is what I want out of it. So now let's work. If in a certain patient you want that, yes, I want to cure this patient, you have to be very clear that, for example, I told you that when that patient came, that cancer, what I wanted out of it. It was very clear that I had studied some remedy which is very similar to this, and I want to see how it, that is a very clear thing that I want to see what this remedy do. Okay. So, and you can try this in anything that, anything which you do. If you sit for some time, be clear with yourself, it increases the power of intention. Your intention power, it increases when you are clear, and you will be more, uh, you know for example, you have just started, you want to start with a new remedy. Sit before reading remedies, you just sit for 1 minute, 2 minute, have a talk with yourself. Why I am going to read this remedy? Just be clear about it. I am today going to read sulfur, or calcarea carb. Why I am going to? I know many things about sulfur. I know many things about calcarea carb. So why I have opened the book and go to this thing? Okay, though that patient. So you have to become clear. Okay, that patient, I thought about calcarea carb, but he was not calcarea carb. So let me see what more I can know about calcarea carb, or just that I want to know something new about calcarea carb, something new about sulfur, or I have been thinking this thing about sulfur, whether it is right or not, I just want to verify. So when you are clear why you are doing this thing, anything, any small thing, why we are doing it, then it becomes very easy for us to approach in that thing. It's a very practical point, and maybe just play with that idea, play along. You can, maybe something good might come out of it. So again, like, we have to find our own ways to do some things. Okay, something might work for me, something might work for you, but again, the thing is that we have to reach at the same point. So that is the more important thing, that we have to, if we are into homeopathy, practice is the way to learn homeopathy. So now if some students, they ask me, some new student, I say that start seeing the patient from first year. You have started, see the patient. You might not know the remedy, it's okay, but see the patient, understand the symptoms, how they tell, what kind of ways are there, what kind of words they use. You don't need to prescribe, but see patients. If someone, uh, in your family or in your relatives, they ask you, to see them or to consult with you, yes, consult them. You might not be able to give medicine, or you might give medicine according to what we have learned, but at least you will learn from that thing, that what the diversity of the symptoms which the patients possess, the diversity, or the intensity of the symptoms which the patient have possessed, the words they use, the way they express that thing, because that is what we are going to need in our practice when we will be in the clinic. Or in the clinic also, we are learning every day when we are looking, like I told you about this case. So I had read about that thing, I had a mental image about, but when I saw, then it became so clear. Okay, this might be, I'm not saying that this is, but this might be uh, that induration which has been written in that particular remedy. Okay. So with that, I will again request that go through these aphorisms, try to understand the intermittent fevers, because nowadays also intermittent fevers are coming, like the dengue, it is a kind of intermittent fever. So in those cases, we have to prescribe accordingly. One more thing I would like to add, that nowadays, because the whole picture is sometimes not available to us, okay, because of the antipyretics, or sometimes the patient, they take antibiotics and they take some paracetamol or something like this. So the whole stages are not in front of us. But again, that should not be a case or an excuse. We can ask about whatever the symptoms we can get. If the patient's fever is not intense, request them to, at least for one paroxysm, don't take any medicine. Let us know the symptoms, or the apyrexia state. After even the paracetamol has been taken, wait for 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, and then the some symptoms, if they start coming, the state of the apyrexia, and the state of apyrexia, for some head heaviness of head, some diarrhea sets in, something like this, they can also help us or guide us to know which remedy to give. Okay. So with emergence of these new medications to tackle or control the intermittent fevers, we have to also find some way to work or to prescribe medicine in such cases. Okay, so there are ways, we just have to find, we just have to deal with them, that how we have to understand. So here Dr. Henneman has given us different stages of intermittent fever, how we have to tackle them, when we have to prescribe, what we have to expect out of it, how we have to repeat everything. He has given it very clearly. So again, I request you just go through them once again through these aphorisms and try to create a mental understanding about this classification of acutes, because it is very important. When we are approaching acutes, there are many doctors which I know which are very good in prescribing for chronic diseases, patient where, but not good in the acutes. They cannot prescribe in a better way when there is an acute fever or an acute condition, because these kind of conditions, it can be a state of, like one example in the aphorism was that it was a fatal stage, because many times there can be some paroxysm or some acute cases which are at a stage, or an intermittent states which are at a fatal stage. If we know when to prescribe, upon which things to prescribe, we might save a life also. So with that, I will thank you and take your leave. And just because this Organon is a huge responsibility and huge task. Responsibility because sometimes you have to be very sure, not sometimes, but you have to be very sure that what you are going to say about this thing, it should not distort the meaning in any way. But I will apologize if some mistakes were done, but still we are trying to improve on everything, on every aspect. We all are collectively trying to improve. So it is an effort which we all are doing. uh, all, I mean, everyone of you also. So so just to put a fruit to it, that we need to just keep working on it, we need to keep working on homeopathy, we need to keep working on ourselves, so that we can bring a change which we have hoped for, you know everywhere around us, in our countries, in the world. The hope of Dr. Henneman, that the homeopathy is supposed to cure the ailing humanity. So for that we have to keep working. It is not a one person's task, it is a collective task of all the physicians around the world. If they take up this task of curing, and it can be done, it can be done. Yeah. So thank you all for taking time out of your schedule, and thank you. Have a good night.